So here's step 3 in the game design process that I've been outlining. Just remember that step 2 was to start a game design notebook. I said last time that you should have some place where you're writing your ideas. Now step 3 is where we're going to develop the ideas. I did show you this picture of my notebook from before, and you can see here it doesn't just say just a quick idea. I actually was developing this. I'm actually listing rules. I'm drawing some pictures about what might be on the cards. So I'm doing a lot more than saying, hey, here's a fun idea for a game. And that's what I mean by developing. Here is a copy of one of my notebooks, and this one was the Google document. And you can see that I'm throwing out again questions here like when does the game end? And I'm not saying for sure when it ends. I'm still asking myself other questions or making suggestions. Notice down here I'm listing some cards. I needed some action cards in this game, and I just brainstormed some ideas for the cards, and that's what's down here. So again, what I'm saying is in your notebook you have to start listing all the different things you need to know about that game. What I made was a template that asks you the different questions that I think every designer should consider as they work on a game. And I didn't make this just myself. I had some help from my designer friends. So I'll show you some examples of how I would do this, but notice that I broke this into a few parts. First of all, there are some basic facts about the game, like what type it is, how many people can play, how long it is, and so on. But I also have a section called the why. And this is why in the world does this game need to exist? Why are you making it? And then on the next page, it gets into what I call the how. And the how is, how do you actually play the game? This is where you'll talk about the rules and things like that. Now, to give you an example, I was going to take a game that I had worked on before, and it was called Squirrel Boss. And I'm not going to worry too much about my handwriting here, but you could fill this document out. There's a copy of this in Classroom. You could fill this out as a Google document, or you could just use it as a question guide and you could answer it in your own notebook. But after this one idea I had kind of came along, I knew that I wanted to call it Squirrel Boss, and it was a tabletop game. So I could go through here and fill out all of these things that I know. Sometimes you don't know how long it's going to be right away, so you don't have to answer these questions right away. The whole point here is when you get a chance to work on your game, you open your notebook and you work through these things, and it helps you develop your idea. Now on the why, it said where did the basic idea come from? This is just so you can remember for later. And from me in this game, it came from that game Pig that I showed you because it was a dice game. And in fact, I could put that up here for the genre. It's a dice game. And notice here, what's your reason for making it? This helps when you are, sometimes you get tired of a game and you don't want to finish it even though it's a good idea. This is a good thing to come back to because you read this and you might say, you know what, that still matters to me. I need to make this game. I need to finish it. So this is sort of like your motivation. And you wouldn't fill this out for every idea you have. You just fill this out for the ones that seem right now like they are promising. Let's look at the next page. This is important because now we're talking about the rules, like how you actually win. In my game, it was the first to get 100 points. Okay, so that person won the game. And then when does it end? Well, it ends when somebody gets 100 points. So it's kind of like a race game. And notice that I put 100 down, but that could change later. We're not saying this is how it has to be. These are just ideas. Maybe right now I don't want to answer the next question, but maybe I have some ideas for rules. So I could list all my rules down here that I know, and you can kind of keep developing this in your mind when you get a chance to work on it. Down here you list the things that you will need in the game. Like one thing that I needed in the game was an 8-sided die. So that actually changed as I went along, but when it started out I needed an 8-sided die, just one of them. And I also had some cards. I didn't have a lot of cards, but I wanted to have just 15 when I started. And those you could describe here in this box as much as you want. On the next page, it talks about your printed components. So in other words, what does the board look like? And what do the cards look like? My game didn't have a board, but it did have cards. And they had a name up here of the card, and it was a squirrel that you hired because you were the squirrel boss. And then here we'd have this picture of the squirrel. I'm not going to draw a very good picture right now, but you get the idea. You could draw on here a little bit just to give yourself an idea of what the cards would look like. Down here I had a power. This was the power or the effect of that card when you had it. And there was a number right here that if you rolled that number, you lost all your points. So that was the number you didn't want to roll. So you could sketch anything that you needed for the game. Now the goal is not to build the game in your notebook, but just to get a draft so that you can really do this. Here's a hint down here. I'm not going to talk about this much in this video, but this is the real goal when you're going to test the game. This is where the fun begins. Some people have fun making up the rules, and I do like thinking about this and making notes in my notebook, but the real fun begins when you test the game and you see if people actually enjoy it. So that will be the next step.